The thing about the asthma is that he has that so they can fake you out at the end.
It's not just the asthma, though. It's like he talks like he's 3, looks at least 5, and clings to his mother like he's 1. Like
he's probably 4 or 5. So.
Well, Superman is a peculiar individual, and he is the biological father. So shenanigans, I know not.
Shenanigans.
And there's no such thing as well-written kid in Hollywood.
This is true.
Do we want to do an actual intro this time?
I don't know. Well, for the first time ever, actual intro. This is our Batman versus Superman special. John rewatched The Dark Knight. Garrett Warner and I watched Superman Returns. Warner also watched a number of animated Batman movies.
A couple of Justice League movies, so that I can give more. I'm also very familiar with comic books in general, so that I can be more of the pro-superhero in general side.
And then Reed had to do his taxes, so he didn't watch anything, but he's going to provide the more anti-superhero perspective. But before we get into that, John decided, when we were talking late last night, to atone for his sins, specifically the sin of making us watch The Trial last week.
And Superman Returns this week.
So this was his idea, but I forced him to watch Juno, a movie which I love, and we were both pretty sure he would hate. John, did it deliver?
Now, 2 minutes in, I got up out of my comfy bed and started running around, screaming while pounding my chest in anger. Because, oh my fucking God, I hate this movie. It's less than 10 years old, and it's already dated. They say fucking shizness. Fuck this movie. I had to take breaks for a 90-minute movie. That's embarrassing.
This film won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay in 2008.
Fuck the Oscars. It's a cinematic classic.
It's an indie film about a girl who gets pregnant, and she has to kind of deal with that. It's a very quirky film. Some would say
so fucking quirky.
Some would say too quirky. I would not say that. I think it's great, and I love the dialogue, and I love Ellen Page, and she gives a great performance. And
Ellen Page, she has nothing to work with. No actor has anything to work with.
Michael Cera's a lot of fun.
J.K. Simmons. How do you waste J.K. Simmons?
Spider-Man did.
Oh.
The early 2000s Spider-Man films have not aged well. But regardless, at least the first one hasn't.
The first one was the best of that trilogy.
Really? Most people say 2 is the best.
No one thinks that. Everyone thinks 2 is the best one, and I agree.
Okay. Let me explain my take on this. 2 is probably the best written and the best done of them, but I am the comic book guy.
Oh, for Christ's sake, faithfulness does not equal good!
1 is probably the most accurate to the majority of the comics. That is my main reason for loving it.
I enjoyed The Amazing Spider-Man. Not The Amazing Spider-Man 2. John is... For those keeping...
I haven't seen any of the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
For those keeping track at home, John is beating himself on the head with a tripod.
Now, I will say this. I don't mind The Amazing Spider-Man 1. I think it's mostly forgettable. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is feces dried on a cinema screen.
Exactly.
But that's our opinions on Spider-Man. Let's get to what the crowd came to see. Batman versus Superman. And by that we mean Superman Returns versus The Dark Knight.
I will say this. Fuck Christopher Nolan. You want to know why? That Batcave was a complete waste of space.
Hey.
Even Tim Burton's Batman had a beautiful
Okay,
Batcave.
that's a temporary Batcave. The actual Batcave burned down in the first movie.
The actual Batcave for that trilogy is phenomenal. I will argue that till my dying day. It was beautiful.
Okay, let's start with The Dark Knight.
We're starting with The Dark Knight.
Can I... Actually, you start with, because this is one of your favorite movies, Tyler.
So you want me to talk about the good points before you tear them all to shreds?
Yes.
All right. So The Dark Knight is easily in my top 2 or 3 movies of all time. I think it's phenomenal. Heath Ledger, of course, is incredible as the Joker. Christian Bale's great. The cast is all around stellar. There's really not much more to be said in terms of the vomit of praise that's been heaped on this movie. So I would like.
Also made in film.
It was shot on film, yes,
Yes.
and several sequences were shot with the IMAX camera, including the opening sequence, which is one of the best sequences in any film period, in my opinion. So I would like to talk about why I think I love this movie so much and why I think it works as well as it does. To me, this is easily the best superhero movie ever made. And I really don't... I think it's going to be a long, long time, if ever, before anything comes close. And here, I think, is why. There are a few reasons why. Part of that is because the cast is just so incredibly outstanding. It's not... See, The Dark Knight, you don't really have to look that far to see how influential The Dark Knight is. Today, superhero movies are pretty much split into 2 camps. You have, like, the Nolan aesthetic kind of thing, gritty, dark sort of thing, or you have the Marvel Studios fresh, fun, colorful, that sort of thing. And The Dark Knight, it's been very influential. Its central sequence of the villain who wants to get captured has been copied too many times to count by now. And, the Joker, okay. We might as well get it right off the bat. Heath Ledger is pretty much the main reason this movie is so great. Heath Ledger makes this movie. And the Joker, the way this Joker is written and played, is such a towering cinematic villain. Such an incredible screen presence. And when you have Jack Nicholson, who is a fairly iconic Joker in his own right, to come up and follow that is... that must have been an unenviable task, but he more than met the challenge. He leapt over the bar that Jack Nicholson set, completely made the character his own, brought a whole new interpretation to it. The Joker in this film is just an incredible presence, and Warner wants to say something.
This is easily the best Joker that's ever been. I think this is easily just the best Joker.
He is definitely the best live-action Joker so far, but there is a... I'm not saying whether he's not the best Joker or not. I'm drawing a parallel right here. There is a lot of people argue that Mark Hamill's animated Joker from Batman the Animated Series is the best Joker. But less well known is Joe DiMaggio's Joker in Under the Red Hood. And Joe DiMaggio's Joker in Under the Red Hood is written and performed a lot like Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, and I see a lot of parallels between the 2 characters and the 2 styles of the characters. I have to say that the Heath Ledger and Joe DiMaggio style Joker is a lot more what I picture in the comics, and a lot more how I see the Joker as a whole.
Yeah. I heard Heath Ledger actually had a lot of preparation for the part. Is that right? How he made a diary?
Yeah.
And on what it was like to be the Joker.
Yes.
And that's how he prepared for his role.
Yes, he's a very method actor, so he definitely got very close into this role. People think that that's like part of the reason that he died, but that is an urban legend. That is false.
He owns every scene he's in.
Yes, and this performance was in no way responsible for his death. So, obviously the Joker towers over this movie. You know, Batman, honestly, is kind of a supporting character in this film, I would argue.
And Christian Bale's performance is, I don't want to call it question. He's great when he's out of the suit. When he's in the suit, I think it's kind of awkward, but it works well enough.
People say that. I still think he's a great Batman. Look, and the other thing is that this movie has ruined other Batman stuff for me. Like, I can't watch Tim Burton's Batman now. Just the fact that it has a Prince song dance sequence in it takes me out of it.
To be fair, that is definitely something the Joker would do. That is like 100% something the Joker would do.
Is it?
Joker's marketing team.
It is. That's actually something that he did in the comics.
Well, it's not something the Heath Ledger Joker would do.
Executive that came
it's
up.
not. But it's something the early Joker would do. The early Joker was a lot more campy and a lot more... He liked to chew the scenery, and he
He's still chewing scenery.
Oh, he still is, but he has, over the years, become a lot darker and a lot more, I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna go do whatever the hell I want, just because I can.
Yeah, that's like how definitely how Heath Ledger plays it. This very...
I argue Heath Ledger's Joker has a bit more of a plan.
Well, no, he doesn't have like an overarching plan. He has like, he's like, okay, that's done. What am I going to do next? Oh, here's what I should do. Let's go do this. And then he does it. And then it's like, okay, what next? Okay, I'll do this. And then he does it. And it's like, this movie, getting back to the movie itself, this movie, like The Social Network, is an anomaly, I think, for pretty much everyone involved, in that it really does stand out from the other two movies of the Dark Knight trilogy, and really all of Christopher Nolan's movies, in terms of its structure and its style. This is way more gritty and realistic than even the other two Christopher Nolan Batman movies. This is a movie that eschews the very complicated, like, flashback structure that most Christopher Nolan movies adopt. It's a very straightforward story, and like the structure mirrors that of the Joker, and that everything is very disconnected and episodic, which is exactly the way that the Joker makes it, because he's like just moving from one crazy criminal escapade to the other, and that's how the movie feels. Well, he probably
I disagree with Heath Ledger having no plan whatsoever. It's not much of a plan, but there was like, you upset the established order. I think there was a sort of twisted logic to what he is doing. So I don't want to call it he's just doing whatever the fuck he wants and running around. I don't think this Joker has a point and has a message. It's a twisted and psychotic point, but the
message is that you can't really control anything.
Yeah, okay, that is.
It's more about chaos than like pure anarchy and no plan, I guess.
Okay.
So you have that. And then the other big thing about this movie is that it's pretty much the only mainstream movie to effectively deconstruct the idea of the superhero. Obviously, Watchmen, the book, does that very well, but for reasons we've already discussed, Watchmen, the movie, kind of fails. This movie, very clearly, you know, if this were one standalone movie, I think it would work perfectly fine.
It does work as a standalone.
Yeah, you don't need to see Batman Begins to really get what's going on, and you don't need to see The Dark Knight Rises to really feel satisfied after it's over. On its own,
if you want to learn about the Batcave.
except if you want to learn about the Batcave, I guess. But on its own, this is a very bleak vision of the idea of a superhero. This is a movie that ends with Batman running off into the night, hunted by the police, you know, being chased because they think he killed someone. This is a movie that dares to say that, you know, maybe in the end, superheroes can only be hated. Superheroes can't really... This is a movie that broaches the idea of maybe superheroes do more harm than good. They talk about this idea of how Batman maybe is encouraging crime. Maybe the Joker rose because he felt the need, like, ooh, Batman, now it's like he's like rising to a challenge somewhat.
I want to point out one thing real quick. I don't remember more than one or two instances in the entire movie that they actually called him a hero.
Right.
I remember them calling him a vigilante. Frequently, it's Gordon calling him a necessary vigilante or something along those lines, because Gordon feels that he is necessary and that he is a hero. But to all the other cops, he's a vigilante that it has just fallen a little bit lower on their list of criminals.
I will say I don't think it is a successful deconstruction, but I don't think it's as ballsy as maybe it should be, because it's still, Batman is still one step ahead of everyone.
I mean, yeah.
Batman is still doing the right thing.
I mean, you can only go so far.
Chasing him, that's all for show.
But is he doing the right thing? Because he uses the big machine to hack into every cell phone in Gotham City.
The movie justifies that because he finds a Joker and blah, blah, blah.
But, yes, the movie justifies
Patriot Act.
The ends. The movie more or less says the ends justify the means.
Mm-hmm.
But Lucius Fox, he is like, I can't work with this. I can't do this if you're going to be infringing on everything like this, if you're going to be breaking the law to this degree. And it really does make you question, do the ends justify the means? And I think it was a big comment on the Patriot Act at the time, or similar things.
Very obviously so.
At the same time, it makes you think about how it makes you wonder, are the superheroes really doing good by hacking into our personal security?
Yeah, and like, you know, John, you're right. You can only go so far with the Batman character. Like, there's a reason Alan Moore created original characters for Watchmen, but in, you know, like, this is a Batman movie. Batman still has to save the city in a real, tangible way. Quote Darren Franich. But you know, I think that the fact that they were able to raise these themes at all in a Batman movie, I think is something to be admired and celebrated. And really, maybe it doesn't go as far as it should, but I still think it's a great, you know, deconstruction of the idea of a superhero. And this is a movie that completely works as a crime film. You take Batman out, this movie still works. And it's more than just a superhero movie. It's, you know, I would argue that in some cases it's not a superhero movie. Yeah, it's a crime drama.
It is just straight up crime drama.
It's the portrait of an urban environment in the midst of a crisis, and
kind of an urban legend almost. It's in certain
cases.
Yeah.
All three of the Nolan Batman movies are. The other two don't work quite as well as The Dark Knight, but when you think about it, none of them have truly the superhuman stuff that is known for, or that the comics are known for. All of these things that make the comics unreal and make superheroes were kind of toned back and made within human limitations.
Yeah.
So
I think it is this. I think this movie works better as a crime drama than it does a superhero movie, because it's not even trying to be a superhero movie.
It's not.
It is a crime drama, and watching it again, this movie is trying to say a lot. This is almost like an urban creed from the Nolan brothers. There's they're going after the Patriot Act. They're going after sort of lightness and darkness. They are going after all these things. And I know that because every time they do that, they hit you over the head with a fucking sledgehammer. Because, oh God, I like the story in this, but the dialogue in this movie, what dialogue? There is only two kinds of talking in this movie. Speeches and funny jokes. Speech, cute joke. Speech, cute joke. That is the dialogue in this whole movie.
Symbolism.
It's not even symbolism. It's just people. It's people saying the themes. And so to me, as far as it's a good story with a lot of great ideas, but I think it's a really clumsy and ham-handed script. To me, because you know everything that's going on because they just fucking say it. It's not even that there's obvious symbolism in the movie. It's because the script plays it out for you. And it's spoon feeding you these ideas.
Like I would never call Christopher Nolan a great screenwriter. I think he's a very good screenwriter. I think he's got a lot of great ideas. I don't think he writes dialogue very well. Yeah, he's good. He's good with story, and he's good with, I think, creating some pretty good characters.
Yeah, I think he's fine. As far as story and characters goes, he's fine. But as far as actual execution,
I don't know. And yeah, he's a much better director than he is a writer, and I grant that. But I still think the script for this. I'm just amazed by the fact that making this a Batman, that this kind of a Batman movie got made. To me,
It does have balls.
to me that's incredible. And
it does have balls.
Nolan was very concerned with like pushing the realism, like we talked about, and like kind of taking the piss out of these like traditional superhero ideas, and that really shows in this movie. And that, that's why it's the great superhero movie, because it has the balls to try to not be a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm. I think I will say this as far as this is really my main, because I see this movie as a clumsy script saved by good direction and a great cast. Christian Bale, it's Christian Bale. Gary Oldman is a fucking powerhouse. You have Aaron Eckhart being very theatrical. There's Heath Ledger, who is iconic. We can't say enough about him. It's just a great cast. So this clumsy they sell this clumsy script.
Even just a couple of the supporting roles, like Morgan Freeman's Lucius Fox. He's only in like 4 scenes in the entire movie, and he's phenomenal.
Yeah, this is one of just the greatest casts you will put together
Change
for a movie.
any one of these people, and it probably would have flopped.
Especially Morgan Freeman.
To me, it is one of those movies that, it's this clumsy script that's fucking sold by great actors. But I think because here's the thing, Christopher Nolan wants to turn Batman into this big Shakespearean-esque allegorical urban tale. Perfectly fine, go right ahead. But it's a movie that seems to trying to have its cake and eat it too. Because it's saying like, okay, we're going to do this big allegorical thing, but we're going to have it be realistic and gritty, and we're going to have people talk about real court terms and actual police work. And to me, it just doesn't quite mesh. If you made this a more flexible, stylized reality, maybe not like the Burton films, but Batman Begins was kind of doing that, because it had its big theatrical Asian training places, and the streets of Gotham looked like a 19th century slum, and there were things that were kind of stylized about Batman Begins, whereas that's all just taken away in The Dark Knight. So I think some of the more clumsy and really...
I would say everything stylized is taken away from between the two movies. I would say I think he just changed the style.
Yeah.
There was a change in style.
Because he wanted to show that Batman is having an effect, and that he is cleaning up the city. Mm-hmm. Because he showed so much of the lower end of Gotham looking like slums and looking raunchy and gritty. And then in The Dark Knight, and even more so in The Dark Knight Rises, it's becoming progressively more clean and more whitewashed. Like, the city is improving.
There's also a backlash.
Is getting whitewashed.
And there's also a backlash, especially in The Dark Knight Rises, when people rally behind Bane. People of Gotham, take back your city and whatnot.
I'm a Marxist.
Have you seen The Dark Knight Rises, Reed?
Most of yes.
So you've seen Dark Knight Rises, but you haven't seen The Dark Knight.
Is there anything wrong with that?
Well, maybe a little bit, but
yes.
One's a much better movie. So are we in sort of? We highly recommend The Dark Knight. It's the fucking Dark Knight. It's kind of the gold standard.
Unless you're Garrett Reed, you've probably seen it already.
The camera work is good. If you go for the camera work, go for the movie. Then I recommend it based on camera work.
I did forget how pretty it was. This is a very pretty movie. I forgot about that.
Well, Superman Returns. I did not hate this movie. I did not love this movie.
What praise?
I shrug. It's good, I think.
To me, it's sort of because I'm the biggest Superman fan here. Just because it was something whereas I religiously watched the 1940s Fleischner cartoons. I fucking love that. I love this character. I think he's an integral part to American pop culture. And to me, I consider this the best of the Superman movies. That does not make it a masterpiece, though, because none of them are masterpieces. I find it a movie, it's a beautiful but very flawed movie. where for me that it has peaks and troughs, and for me the peaks overweigh the troughs. And to me, it's kind of this. It is kind of an anomaly of a superhero movie because I don't think there's really any other. Because everything else is quick edits, really fast, lots of action, and this is not interested in that at all. It's this slow, sort of elegant, lyrical thing, which I think makes it really stand out.
I'd say anything since 2000 is like that.
Oh yeah,
but the 70s Superman movie, or the first one, I didn't see the second one, and I've only seen a majority of the first one. The Batman show from the 60s, their movie, and I guess the first Batman movie were a lot more like this than the other, or than the 2000 ones. They had more of a, we're gonna actually have a story here, and then we'll have a few big fight scenes or big action sequences, but they'll be fairly short.
More than anything, I think to me, what action is in here is pretty creative and pretty like, hey, let's see what we can do with Superman. And to me, it's some of the best Superman action put to screen.
I will agree with that from what I have seen. Although I do have a comment about what Lex Luthor and using kryptonite on Superman, then throwing him in water. Like, really? In the 70s Superman movie, he chained Superman in a pool with kryptonite. And in this movie, which is supposed to be a sequel to it,
kind of tricky,
he stabs him with kryptonite, then throws him into the ocean.
After brutally beating him up.
Well, yes, but
that doesn't happen in the first one.
Superman turns into a wuss when he's...
Well, we literally have Superman getting beaten to a pulp with his cape strung over his face while he tries to yell, "I'm still Superman." And I've heard stories of people in the theater where there was a bunch of kids, and one of them just stood up, started crying, and said, "Mommy, is Superman dead now? Can we go home?"
Are you sure that wasn't just the kid in the movie?
On that kid.
Alright. I have
that kid.
two main points about this movie. The first is that, alright, look, I didn't hate this movie.
You have many points about this movie.
I didn't hate this movie. I really don't have much of an opinion on this movie. Like, if you were to ask me to pick the dumbest thing in this movie, I would have difficulty choosing. Would I pick Superman's asthmatic biological son? Would I pick Lex Luthor's plan? Would I pick Lex Luthor himself as played by Kevin Spacey? Would I pick the fact that he's stranded on a desert island at the end? Would I pick the fact that Clark Kent and Superman come back at the exact same time and on the exact same day and nobody fucking notices that?
Or the fact that Clark Kent was missing for the entire time Superman's in the hospital.
Right. Exactly.
Kind of biggest news story ever.
And he's got. I honestly, that's just something. Whereas, I think that's just with those kind of things. Those are just with the Superman character. I think it's just kind of it's comic books. So
that's something Man of Steel actually got right. Lois Lane knows Clark Kent is Superman. That actually makes fucking sense. Oh, and another thing, a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter can't spell catastrophic.
That is a problem. I will agree with that.
There is a staggering amount of misogyny in this movie.
I will say, I love the fact that Lois's fiance kind of almost puts two and two together and is like, how tall is Clark? What do you say he weighs? About 250? Something like that. And he's piecing the things together, and Lois is just like...
But then they just laugh it off.
No. They just have Clark give this goofy little wave, and they just go, "Oh, it can't be Clark. It can't be him." Well, the thing about it is this movie, I think, maybe because I just appreciate this movie because I find it much more interesting than a lot of superhero movies. Because it's first and foremost this nostalgic recalling to a long dead franchise. But it's also very much about, at least the sort of central plot. There's different threads and almost references here and there. But it's very much about the difficulty of recreating the past. And the whole Great Gatsby-esque relationship with Lois Lane. And all that nonsense. I mean, the Lex Luthor stuff is kind of a B plot in this movie. This movie does not care about Lex Luthor.
This movie would be infinitely better if Lex Luthor weren't in it at all. All due respect to Kevin Spacey, who's one of my favorite actors. What the fuck is he doing in this movie?
I'm not going to say it's this masterpiece of a performance from a grade A actor. To me, it is an actor letting loose. It's a goofy character with a goofy performance. That's kind of...
It was all wrong.
Wrong!
He created a meme in the process. I can't completely write off this performance. But to me, I think cutting down Luthor altogether that is a good thing. Because this movie needs some fucking editing. This movie needs a better fucking editing. I think there's more focusing on, because there was these great little references to, like, there's one point where Superman's sort of flipping through the channels, and there's things like war and famine and things like that. There's also other things where it's like, I think Lois tells, like, well, the world moved on. We don't need Superman. And I wish the movie just went just a little bit more into those things, because those are almost those are ideas. Those are great ideas, and but they only just hint at them.
It made you think it was going to, other than the fact that it had almost started out on Luthor stealing this woman's money.
Yeah, more. It focuses. There's too much on Luthor, and I like this Lex. This is my favorite on-screen Lex Luthor, but that just doesn't have much competition.
Batman. I'm going to be completely honest. I am optimistic for this new Lex Luthor.
Awful. Jesse Eisenberg just looks awful. I have no confidence in this Lex Luthor.
He doesn't look the part. I will fully agree with that. But just based on the commercials, I feel like he might be able to do the part some justice. Maybe not appearance-wise, but characteristically.
I think all around it's just going to be a failure. To me, just like, I have no fucking idea what they're going for with Lex Luthor here.
I think
no fucking idea.
I think what they're trying to tell is a story of Mark Zuckerberg, who abandoned social media and went into heavy industry and world domination.
But grew out his hair.
The social network is the first of the DC canon.
Well, John, you brought this up. My other main point about this movie is that it seems to have, like, the seeds of a lot of good ideas about, like, Superman in the modern age, and, like, what does the world still need Superman, like, what's Superman's place in the world. Like, those are great ideas, and I feel like they could say good things about that, but the movie just sidelines all of that, and instead you get Superman fatherhood story, Lex Luthor story, Lois Lane and Superman rekindling romance story, which I don't feel is adequately resolved, by the way. But with all of that stuffed in there, like, this movie runs 2.5 hours long and still doesn't get across everything that it should. I feel like that's probably because the focus was in the wrong place, like we've been saying. And, you know, in the end, I really think if you're not already a fan of Superman, you're really not going to get much out of this movie. This is a movie it's clearly done with a lot of love for the character, and it's clearly, like, pandering to Superman fans. I'm not really a Superman fan, so I'm just lukewarm on this movie.
To me, the best points of this movie are when it does go after that. To me, it's one of my favorite Superman images are in this movie, where it's just him floating above the world, and the camera zooms around, and we zoom into his face, and we just start hearing everything he hears. We hear
everything.
Yeah, and there's a line later saying, "I hear everything." And to me, just those little brief, when it does go into it, it doesn't go to it all that often, but when it does, the movie is genuinely great in those moments. So I think it's a diamond in the rough that I've sort of adopted, and I will defend this movie because it's made with so much love, and it's almost a passion project in some regards, because Bryan Singer loves Superman so fucking much.
You almost had to make this movie. And I think this movie was made with the intention of having sequels.
Yes, it was.
Because of the way that it left on a kind of cliffhanger. Like, it leaves it wide open to have more sequels. I do particularly enjoy, though, the fact that there is a 2007 Honda CR-V, supposedly in the 70s.
Well, the thing about the time period is it's really like this is even more of a fantasy New York than the first movie, because like the Daily Planet doesn't look like a real building. It looks like something they pulled straight from an Art Deco magazine or something like that. And the whole city looks like it's covered in gold at night, and it's color coded to all hell.
I'm actually kind of surprised that John didn't pick up or point out the fact that all of the other cars, you can't really tell their make and model. It never really shows it. But right in front of Lois Lane and her fiance, there's a Honda CR-V.
I didn't notice that. I might have, next time I watch, I might have to look for that and then jump out of my window in anger.
It was
Which I'm
really
surprised I didn't do while watching Juno. But I digress. Now we go into the anti-superhero part of the show. Warm up, Dr. Reed. Warm up.
So I guess I have to begin with Saturday with weekday afternoon cartoons. I watched a shit ton of them, and they were great, especially Justice League on Cartoon Network, which was good. It has 30-minute installments, but they always leave it off on the worst cliffhangers. And I suppose, being a young person, I suppose that discouraged me a little bit from the superhero movies. Plus, I was never interested that much in comics. In fact, I didn't really get re-interested back in Superman movies until the Iron Mans, which I watched them, then watched the rest of Marvel up into Avengers, then also went and watched the Batmans. But I think it was around the time of the Avengers where I kind of realized superheroes weren't for me. And it might have been the fact that there wasn't enough complexity in plots, more of good versus evil, and I think when I really got into superhero movies, I had a more complex idea of what a plot should be, and that good versus evil was a bit stale.
What was it that you compared it to yesterday? Do you remember?
He had a really good analogy for it yesterday.
Well, I think you said most of your problems were on the good versus evil dynamic.
Yes.
How it never strays away from that in concept and in structure.
Yes.
Is that really all it is?
I mean, there's also more that it's extremely too marketable, and there are way too many fanboys. Sorry, Garrett.
You know what? Let's go into why is the black white good evil dynamic a problem, and why is it's part of why The Dark Knight is a great movie, is because it really does dive into that.
The superheroes are just bland. They're bland, and I will say, unfortunately, maybe because there is sort of a mixing, especially with Superman and the Man of Steel. Even though he doesn't fucking kill people, it kind of makes him, and especially in Superman Returns, which come to think about it, is more of a movie about real life, and it seems more real, and I actually seem to more appreciate that and more relate to Superman as opposed to the frickin' Avengers.
The charm of, I think that's why they've sort of dominated Hollywood. I think their black-white dynamic is part of why they've begun to dominate Hollywood.
And they're also extremely marketable. Toys, comics, toys, t-shirts, toys. It's sickening. It makes me vomit. It's like the milking scene from Mad Max Fury Road. It's disingenuous, it's superficial, and it's extremely superficial. And I think with this good versus evil plot, it's extremely predictable. especially with the Avengers, and especially all the Marvel movies beforehand, is that this good versus evil, and as well as violence. You went into a movie expecting those things, and then you left saying, "Oh, that was good, and I got everything I wanted." Who knew it was good? And then all these movies are drowned out with product placement. Well, not necessarily product placement, but also
Ant-Man
merchandise.
is infamous. I find Ant-Man to be infamous for product placement.
There's one thing.
While there's fighting in the briefcase, there's a big fucking prominent lifesavers thing coming right at the screen. That's a center fucking frame. We just have the two people just fighting, and this thing is center fucking frame.
John, to their credit, they needed that. They needed the money.
Yes, Marvel needs the fucking money from Baskin fucking Robbins.
So basically, the products that came from it, all the toys and T-shirts that ultimately raised this sickening hype, and then as well as the efficiency in the delivering of the violence and good versus evil generally, and because it's all predictable, efficient. It's McDonald's. The industry has become McDonald's. I really hate to say it.
I will say that as far as Marvel goes, I think ever since Avengers 2, I can see every cog in the industrial machine that is the Marvel Studios just going bit for bit. I don't see art in any frame of a Marvel movie anymore. To me, it's like corporate, planned out. We got movies planned up the wazoo, and it's even more blatant with DC right now because they're just putting all their eggs in a basket right now out of desperation.
Right, it makes it disingenuous.
Because look, our rival, they're already 15 movies ahead of us.
We done goofed, kids. We done goofed.
And it's two studios. And they compete, of course. And like their rollout, especially with Marvel, makes it disingenuous to the creative process, to art.
Hey guys, movies are a business.
And it compares extremely well to the milking sea from Mad Max Fury Road.
Of course, John is a man who said just yesterday that he thinks movies now are better than they've ever been.
Yes, they are.
So don't get the wrong idea
here,
kids.
And they may not even be good. But they are. As far as the craft of filmmaking, we are better at making movies today than we were 40 years ago.
No, that just stands to reason, I suppose.
I think I will see this. It might be a bad thing that we keep adapting. We're now moving on from adapting books to adapting comics.
And soon we'll be adapting video games, and I don't want us
We're already
to...
adapting We have a Warcraft movie and an Assassin's Creed movie coming out this year.
The fuck?
They already tried it with Prince of Persia 2 or 3 years
ago.
What Agent 47? That was last year.
I think the guy.
It's coming.
I think the guy directing the Assassin's Creed movie directed a new version of Macbeth just last year.
Oh yeah.
Starring Michael Fassbender.
So,
I guess what I was trying to say with the adapting comic books to video games, I think that's probably a better path to take than making them into the movies. It lets you, rather than seeing an actor not necessarily portray the character the way the character is in the comic books or the way you picture it, you become the character and you can make the character do as you feel the character would within the game.
And maybe
it's a lot easier to adapt it almost frame for frame than it is, or from comic book to a video game than it is from comic book to a movie.
Maybe, and then I think going off with that sort of like control of the destiny of the hero, probably what absolutely turns me off when superheroes go Lego. When they go Lego, it kind of turns to shit. Even though this has nothing to do per se with film, I think whenever that happens, especially not so much with Star Wars, but with Legos and even Big Bang Theory, has sort of stopped and questioned, what am I doing with my life?
I'm anxious for the Lego Watchmen set, personally.
They're making that?
I don't think so. I'm just
No.
There is a video online called Saturday Morning Watchmen, which is someone more or less taking the marketing of these dark properties to an extreme. Like it has Rorschach saying, "I'm nutty," while juggling pies. And it's great.
Oh dear.
I like that as a parody.
I'm kind of dredging, still getting magazines in the mail from Lego.com. I don't know why I still do, but I'm dredging the moment when its front cover is buy Batman versus Superman, only because it's going to perpetuate the hype, especially with the younger audiences. That probably even shouldn't see Superman.
Here's a set with real blood so Superman can bleed.
Because Superman fucking kills people. That's what you learn now. And it's this hype that's... I don't know. I guess, to me, having hype surrounding by a large group of people is too excessive for anything. I suppose that's my opinion why I don't like superhero. There's way too much hype for me to get my own opinion about it. And everyone has to say, oh, but this is this and this is that. But I never have, because the hype train stops for no one. That's sort of why. Okay.
I will admit that is one of the biggest problems with the superhero industry right now. Everyone is kind of jumping on board because they're making movies of them. And nobody seems to realize that DC, at very least, has been consistently releasing movies. I looked it up earlier. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, there are 10 just animated Justice League movies that appear to have been released within the last 10 years.
And there's also the Green Lantern movie,
Motherfucker.
which is a disgrace on the comic books.
It's an abortion.
This is
That's
not
what it
including
is.
the live-action movies at all. And then that's not even branching out into the other characters. There's at least a dozen Superman movies, and there's probably 20-plus Batman movies.
There's Batman.
Just animated. So
Batman is DC's big cash cow.
he is their second oldest hero.
Mad Max Fury Road milking right there. Which I find a little strange, because when you think of American superhero, when you think of American character, you think Superman.
Superman. I'd argue Superman is more so than. Well, now Batman is the big popular one, but Superman's has been popular a lot longer than Batman.
Not a lot longer.
I'd argue.
But he's only been around a year longer.
Well, yeah, he's only been around a year. Well, Batman was created because Superman was ultra popular.
Yeah.
That's why I'd argue Superman is a bit more culturally relevant. But Batman certainly does have a cultural link.
Superman is what America's supposed to be, but Batman is how other countries have viewed America actually being.
And that's why Batman is better.
And that's
End
why
of discussion.
Batman is more popular.
We need to decide what we're doing next week.
Okay, what are we doing next?
I had a vague idea for a kind of a themed episode that we could do next week, which was like movies that we didn't really like at first, but then went back and revisited and then really liked the second time or third time or what have you. I have one that would be good for that. I don't know whether anyone else would. I think we should try to keep it to 2 movies because trying to watch 3 movies is just a little excessive with our schedules.
Yeah.
I can try and find one of my own. I have one in mind, but we've already done a Miyazaki movie, so I don't want to turn this into the anime viewing podcast.
I don't really have any like that, so I'll just watch one of your guys's, probably.
Garrett, do you have anyone like that?
It's probably some Disney. You know what? Actually, you guys are really going to hate me for this.
We can do more Disney.
A Bug's Life.
Okay.
A Bug's Life.
I knew, but
Okay. I'm glad I'm gonna have the opportunity to stump for this movie.
I'm gonna rip some childhoods to shreds.
That's what you do.
I can do a Bug's Life.
All right. Well, if we're doing that, then my movie, I think you guys are gonna like this. Wes Anderson's second feature film, Rushmore.
Yay!
Which I was very lukewarm on the first time, and then watched again recently, and now absolutely love to pieces.
Garrett! Fuck you! Oh no! No! Warner! No!
I'm going to use this opportunity to grab a beverage.
Comics are shit!
Well, comic books are shit, but that's a conversation for another day.
Swastika pasties!
Zeke.
Whee!
That's a good joke.
Guys,
the fruits, you boys!
guys,
How many pills should I take, guys?
I have to edit this.
We're supposed to talk about movies! This is half outtakes.
Not
This is half actual show and half outtakes.